So I think it's important to understand that clinical research is, it's something which we need to learn, and and like surgery, we need to go through the steps and then do it properly. Similarly, in research, we need to understand, train ourselves. And so this is me way back in the year 2008, where I attended research methodology workshops, and so I would sort of encourage all the residents listening in to consider getting themselves trained. Something like you can't put an IOL in the eye before doing the other steps and like surgery. In the same way, you can't do a proper a research project or a publication without actually training yourselves. So the first thing was why, and then we'll see how. So I always like to start by saying that work that remains unpublished in one form or another is essentially incomplete or undone. And just to expand on this, that there are somewhere around at least 300 to 350 theses which happen in India at least on an annual basis. And if you see how many of them are actually getting published or worth publishing or being done well, the number is really sort of below even 10%. So a lot of that a lot of our residents are doing is really finally incomplete or undone. So so why we need to publish in one crux is we need to really go beyond one patient. And because once you publish a paper on a particular disease, that information is going to be applicable to a lot of other patients, not only in your settings but internationally. And then whatever you found out can actually influence thousands and thousands of lives. And so in a nutshell, why you should do research, I've sort of put in a mnemonic. So some important reasons are, so this is not really in terms of first or second, but just the mnemonic goes that way. So if you do research in a particular field or in a niche field, you get fame and recognition out of it. And it's important to understand that these should be meaningful research that makes impact and gains you peer respect, and then the fame and recognition comes. Of course, A stands for patient care, where your pivotal research studies have a potential to enhance patient care, like I've already said. Research really makes you a good clinician, and there isn't a difference between a clinician and a researcher. And the term today goes in as a clinician scientist, where you're doing both good clinical research as well as clinical care. So how this makes you a good clinician is that all the deliberations during that publication and review process, a lot of back and forth and all the changes that you have to make makes you a better thinker and finally a good clinician. O stands for policy, or or a lot of policy decisions, where some of the impactful papers. I'll show you a couple of examples as we go along. So some impactful papers help administrators make policy decisions, allocate funds to public welfare projects, etc. So don't think that your papers are only read by your peers. Sometimes IAS officers may read your papers, sometimes judges may read your papers and pass their decisions based on those. So a lot of implications which can happen if you're doing impactful work. U stands for funding and grants, where your research makes you eligible, may not be immediately, but at a later stage makes you eligible to apply for large grants and funding from international funding agencies, as well as a lot of Indian funding is also now coming through. So you become eligible for that. And S is it's a personal index, where what finally matters, as you go along in your journey, you'll notice or you'll realize that citations matter more than actual publication. So citation of your papers helps your personal growth, your prestige, and in the medical community. So sort of the mnemonic here is famous, just to attract your attention, but it's in no way to so just the mnemonic is not important, but each and every point that has been mentioned is important. So think about each of them, and then you will realize why it's important to do good research. So just a couple of examples is, so you can have an influence over literature. So this is my own example, where this is a paper we published from Arvind Eye Hospital on toxic anterior segment syndrome. Some of you who are in part of large institutions and do high volume cataract surgeries will understand that toxic anterior segment syndrome does happen, and it's slightly maybe more commoner than endophthalmitis itself. So once this paper was published, it was a long-term incidence of about 80 patients. Once we did this, I started getting reviewer invitations on TAS, and over the last decade or so, I have reviewed almost 70 or 80 papers on TAS, and our group has maybe sort of reviewed almost 100 patients. 100 papers which are submitted to different journals on TAS. So the group has possibly had an impact on how literature of TAS has evolved over the period of time. This is another example. Like I said, this is a paper which was published in 2017 in the IGO, and it's going to influence policy of the NPCB in the years to come. So how do you really go about it is, it's important to go home with questions or ask plenty of questions, learn from every patient who are your best teachers, keep in touch with literature. I'll give you some examples, maintain records and register apps. And let's remember that 90% of the world population lives in the developing world, where 90% of papers are published from the developed world, right? So the onus is really on us to have sort of to make this disparity right. So going beyond one patient, it's important to do good clinical research and publish meaningful papers. And now we'll come to how. So it really is from concept to publication. The time given is not really enough, but I thought I'll put in some snippets. So outline really will be to get a research study or get a research idea, design a study, collect data, analyze it, and write the paper, right? So that's generally the overall outline of any research project. How do you choose a research topic is, you can subscribe to the table of contents of some of the major journals which are being published in ophthalmology, like JAMA Ophthalmology, JO Ophthalmology, VJO. Then you can actually tweak PubMed in a way where it helps you get updates in the particular topic or your niche topic of interest. Then you can of course get ideas from your clinics, where you need to be curious in your clinics, ask a lot of questions, and from there some of the questions you'll find are not answered and you can actually answer them. You can think about joining collaborations where a lot of ideas are being discussed. So it's also possible to get residents together within the same institution, or maybe institution in the same city, who can form groups and think about exploring research topics. Journal clubs are a very good way of getting good research topics, where most some of the top journals have papers which end with what can be done in the future. So when you have journal clubs, once you start reading the full text and have journal clubs, you will automatically start getting some topics and ideas, and then attend meetings where some large conferences. You can sort of target your mentors who are going to be attending those conferences, write to them, try and some fix up meetings with them. You can discuss and sort of brainstorm with them as well. So these are examples of some of the major journals which are in ophthalmology. And just a quick example of JAMA Ophthalmology, where if you see in the red box it says get the latest from JAMA Ophthalmology, just put your email address and you can say sign up, and every month whatever is published in JAMA Ophthalmology will come to your email box. This is just an example of how this happens. So these are some of the journals that I have subscribed to, which keep coming into my mailbox. You can also tell PubMed to send particular topics of your interest, say your thesis topic or the topic that you are doing the study on. You can customize PubMed to tell that, okay, I'm now interested in, say, these are some of my interests: retinopathy of prematurity, optic neuritis, or macular edema, diabetic macular edema. So you can actually customize PubMed and get some of these latest, so you'll know what's really hot in that particular topic. Daily clinical scenarios, reading full texts, again, like I've said you, but it's the essence is to think of it again, because everything has been thought of before, but you need to think of it again and understand what has not been done. Once you have that study question in mind, then you need to design the study. And a very quick sort of summary is to use the PICO approach, where P stands for participants. In short, it means your inclusion and exclusion criteria. I stands for intervention, where it's the actual part of the study which you're actually going to do on the patient. It could be simple as questionnaire, or it could be more complicated like a randomized trial or something like that. But I intervention really stands for the exposure that the participants are going to go through. C stands for comparison group, where it could be a placebo or it could be something which is standard of care at present. A lot of people forget to have comparison groups and say, oh, this is the surgical technique that I do and really works well. But then unless you have a comparison group and compare it to what is the existing standard of care, how will you know that it is as good or better? So think about a comparison group even before you're starting or when you're designing your study. And O stands for outcome measures. So you should have to define it very well, and also understand how you're going to put it down on the Excel. So think and define your outcome measures really well. Then basics of biostatistics are important for you to understand. So there was not enough time for me to go into some of these basics, but this is an ebook which is available from my Facebook page, where you can look at Sengupta's Research Academy, and you can actually download this for free. I thought I'll quickly touch upon why sample size is important. Is because we need to get closest to the truth, and if you have too small a sample, or if you sometimes have too large a sample, your overall assumptions or your overall results may not be very robust to apply to the all the patients. And what influences sample size really influences everything, including the sort of statistical analysis that you do, the p values that you're getting, the odds ratio that you're getting. So finally, sample size really has the most important sort of bearing on your overall results. Once you've done the study and you have an idea, you've actually designed it, you've done it, and you analyzed the study, then comes the time for writing your manuscript. So the best way forward really is to use a checklist. This is a great book if anyone wants to read. It's called Checklist Manifesto. And so checklists generally ensure quality, objectivity, thoroughness, and critique. So overall, the outline of any paper is follows the IMRAD format, or introduction, methods, results, and discussion. So this is a website that I would urge all of you to take a look at. It's called the Equator Network, equator-network.org, and it gives you a lot of checklists for you to sort of help you in designing your study as well as in writing up your studies. The examples are stroke, consort, record, care, where care stands for case reports, record is for retrospective studies, consort is for RCTs, and strobe is for observational studies. Essentially, IMRAD format is part of all of these, but there are different ways in which these are put. This is what you will get on the Equator Network. It looks quite busy and difficult, but when you go and actually take a look at this, you'll find that it will guide you to the exact checklist that you should be using. So these are all mnemonics. So strobe is the strengthening the reporting of observational studies and epidemiology initiatives. So this is meant for prospective observational studies. Record similarly is meant for retrospectively collected data, which a lot of our studies actually do. Consort basically is for use for randomized clinical trials. Similarly, quorum, moose, there are many others which are used for reporting different kinds of studies. Other applications of checklists are, in addition to writing your own papers, use these papers for departmental journal clubs that you have, for reviewing papers. Soon, once you start publishing papers, you will realize that you will start getting reviewer initiatives and invitations. So you'll start reviewing papers. You can use these for reviewing as well. Journal clubs are a great way of encouraging clinical research in your department, and the purpose is twofold. So one is to learn something new in the field. Second is to learn how to critically analyze an already published peer-reviewed paper. This is another website which you can also take a look. It's called the ICMG, or the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, where this is the PAPA website, which gives instructions for how to run journals, but it also gives information on manuscript preparation. And this is one of my papers which was published way back in 2014 on the art of scientific writing, and this is of course in IGO and free of cost in the November 2014 issue. You can also look at this article. And this is my website called Sengupta Research Academy, which has some some e-learning modules. I'll just quickly show you some of those, where there are modules in literature review which tell you how to choose a research topic, how to actually use PubMed and search well on that, different study designs. There's a whole module on biostatistics which will help you grasp some of these questions or some of these topics using real world ophthalmic examples. Then there is a module on manuscript writing, and finally we complete with some what do you do with rejections and how do you do your references. And there are some interesting blogs on p-values, blogs on regression analysis, many other interesting blogs like how to convert your thesis to journal articles. And since we were talking about podcasts, I thought I'll put this up as well, where Sengupta Research Academy has started its own podcast where we are talking about research-oriented topics, and we've released 2 episodes so far. So if anyone is interested, you can also take a look at that. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, sir. Extremely enlightening talk, and I would say that even if you are not inclined towards research, after listening to this talk, at least you would know where to start from. And I know that you're so approachable, and you're always there to guide. At whatever stage, even if you're stuck in a paper, you're writing it, you can always take help from you. I would like to ask Dr. Namrata ma'am to give her remarks on this and this entire webinar. Her mantra for postgraduates.
I think it was an excellent presentation, Sabyasachi. Although I've been, seeing all these posts, and I've been seeing all your articles, but I think this is the first time when I've really, heard the whole talk from end to end, and it's just superb. And I think you want to go into research as young ophthalmologists because everybody likes to see their name. So when that name in any paper comes, Pooja Mehta or Rohan, Mehra or Anshika Luthra or Neeraj Israni, you like your name. I mean, you are in love with yourself. There's no doubt about it. So in the initial part, you like to see your name when it comes on a paper, and then if you want an academic job, then you need to go do research. If you're applying for a fellowship outside, it's always helpful if you have a couple of few publications. But as you become, I wouldn't say old, I'll say as you mature, like Dr. Himanshu Mehta has said, that as you mature, then you want to do path picking studies. Then you don't want to do everything. You want to do studies which will make a difference, which will change the clinical practice, which will guide other people, which will be innovations. And as you have your own private practices or systems, or you can say corporate setups, then you want your institution's name to come on the top after you've done the initial grilling part of having to accumulate patients and then getting panels, etc., etc., and everything is settled in life. then you want that your institution's name should come on the top. So, you want publications, you want your team to contribute so that your institution is known for some good work. So I think the whole flow, goes like this. Research is something which again needs a lot of motivation. You have to be really driven to do research. Not everybody can do it, and not everybody has the inclination to do it. So you should do it if you have the inclination to do it. And I think Sabyasachi's really put it all. I think, Rohan, you asked me about this webinar. I think this webinar is for the archives, because such beautifully, selected topics, such apt speakers, and I'm including myself. I mean, I don't think I'm that apt, but all the others, they were just superb. You can just put this, anywhere. And if the person who enters into ophthalmology listens to this, he knows it all, what he is going to face. It's such a practical guide to the roadmap of a postgraduate student, that I think this is just a perfect blend of everything. So hats off to all of you, the youngsters doing it, and congratulations to the whole team, Youthful RSI. I'm really impressed.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the encouraging words. Dr. Kamaljeet, sir, your closing remarks and your thoughts on Dr. Sabyasachi's talk. Okay, so Dr. Naren, sir, till we get Dr. Kamaljeet back.
Yeah, I completely second, ma'am. I mean, it's a wonderful program. I think it's a need of the hour. One place where all the youth who's getting into the field, it's a wonderful source of information. I personally believe, I mean, just not, I mean, I think for students, I think there's a lot of information already. For all the teachers, whoever's teaching, doesn't matter, junior, senior, whoever it is, even the professors, whoever it is, please share every small of tip that you know. Please do not hide anything. That you will not gain anything out of sharing some tips. Don't be in the fear that they will outshine you or do better than you. Always if a good surgeon is there under you, you teach him or not, eventually he will be the best. So it's better that you're the one who trained him to be the best. That's always keep that in mind. Give it all, help a lot of people as much as possible.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now request the IRSI Executive Committee, Dr. Himanshu Mehta and Dr. Gaurav Luthra, to give a vote of thanks, please.
Thank you, Rohan. I think wonderfully explained. The fact that you could keep Dr. Navrata all the way till the end.
It was super.
You could keep Dr. Naren Shetty till the end, Dr. Singh till the end, just speaks volumes. They could have disappeared after the talk. But each one of us have learned so much that itself is, as she said so rightly, it's an archives. Something when somebody's starting their life, and absolutely brilliant. Each speaker has really done the best justice to their topics, and very encouraging to see that this is how, if we go, I think ophthalmology in India would change a big way, because there is so much there and we don't have to travel. We were not ingrained to do research like the Americans and the Britishers. They have huge amount of timings and they get incentives for doing that. A lot of it boils down to the money and the funding. And most of those research projects are funded over there, and the funding is a big process by itself. So it's a lot to do with money. Whereas we here are self-motivated to do research. Sabyasachi doesn't make great money on this. Am I right, Dr. Sengupta? But to persist doing it minus the money component is for your intellectual satisfaction. You are answerable to yourself only and nobody else. Increasing your knowledge, as Neeraj said, from various aspects is just your personal responsibility. The patient doesn't know how much you know. Your gold medal doesn't matter. Nothing matters. What matters is how much, end of the day, every single day, how much more wiser you are than what you were yesterday.
Dr. Gaurav, sir.
Yes, thanks, Rohan. So I think it's been an outstanding 2 hours of listening into all the speakers and all the interaction and all the discussions. And Sabyasachi spoke so well, and I'm sure he's managed to inspire a lot of our residents to start thinking on the research way and the publication way. Because I think the cornerstone is, as Namrata said, of course, it stands out when you get your name, when you see your name on a publication, and then it probably gets an addicting habit to keep seeing it. And you have to start early. It's best not to kind of delay it till the time that you think that you will be able to do it. It's never you could start doing it as a first year resident or a second year resident. You don't have to wait right till the end of your post graduation or when you finish your thesis that you want to publish. If you start doing small case reports or some small little things that which you can, some many journals accept photographs, as has been discussed, you can start with small contributions, and then that grows on you. And once you get into that habit of reading up your journals, your knowledge grows. So I think it's an ongoing process of learning which will never stop. Once you get used to it, it does probably get addicting.